Welcome to the Vegan Squad Pod, a podcast made to inspire vegans to become activists. Join us and our guests as we deep dive into effective forms of activism that we believe will change the world. Whether it's going to vigils, building a physique that shows people we don't need to eat animals, public speaking, or any other form of activism that you'll hear on this podcast, we want to empower you to find your voice and to speak up for justice. Thank you so much for being here and enjoy the episode.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Vegan Squad Pod. Today, we have a super cool special guest that we're going to get to dive deep and learn a bit more about. On Instagram, you go by James Hoot. So we got James Hoot on here. And James, where are you located?
I live in Indonesia.
Indonesia. All right. That was somewhere I've never been. Cool. But we should talk about that a little bit, what the vegan scene is like there.
Yeah.
I'm joined by Alex, and he is always here to help me run these shows. And really, I think the beauty of what we've built here with the Vegan Squad Pod is diving deep into the lives of activists and hearing their backstory, where they came from, how and why they went vegan, and now why they're using their platform to spread this message. And honestly, I did not know this would happen at the start, but I feel like if this podcast was around for me when I was younger, it would have helped me find activism a lot sooner. And I have noticed several people have reached out to me to say that they are now becoming activists after listening to this podcast. And so I think learning the people behind the movement helps us understand the movement better and allows us to be able to relate and then also learn. I think that we've learned a lot from our prior guests. And so I'm excited to learn a little bit more about you, James. But let's dive into you. You're in Indonesia. What do you do now? And then we'll get into your backstory as well.
Cool. So I guess I've got a couple things going on all in the creative field. First off, I run an organization called Fauna Films, and what we're trying to do is basically create, like, everybody knows Cowspiracy. They know What the Health, like amazing documentaries. But if you start talking to people who are outside of global North countries, like there's very little, for example, in the entirety of the global South available for people to turn on Netflix or HBO and watch pro-vegan messaging from people who are from their country or speak their language or something like that. So what Fauna Films is trying to do is bring localized content to areas of the world that don't yet have it, educating about animal rights, veganism, and topics that are good for health and animals and the planet. So we've got a few projects on. We've got our kind of flagship project is a series in Indonesia, and it's shot entirely in the local language. We've got a big celebrity as the host and stuff like that. And so that we've got a documentary in Mongolia featuring horse slaughter and all kinds of stuff. And so we've got about 6 projects on right now around the world. So that's kind of like the film side of things I do. And then I do vegan animal rights rap, which is niche, as probably niche as it gets, but really fun. And I try and I don't know, I kind of make that one, that's all like for the vegans, if that makes sense. Like I make that just to get I don't know, a lot of it is poking fun at, non-vegan ways and shit like that. And I don't know, I find that I try and be funny in the stuff I create. I try my best. It doesn't always work. But yeah, I guess that's and then I have a new kind of music artist platform coming out later this year that does, I kind of work on some electronic music and stuff that won't really be vegan related, but it's just a passion project of mine of doing music on the side and staying true to my values, whatever. But yeah, so I'd say it's like film and music are kind of my 2 specialities, I guess, the things I love.
That's so
Very
cool.
Yeah.
I love that you're like making your life veganism and also just creative outlets. Like it's probably fun in ways to create all of this and just help people wake up to the matrix.
Totally. Yeah. It's like, I think there's a lot of ways to change people's minds. I think art is a really good one. It's not the only way. And a lot of people don't really, find art to be that inspiring. A lot of people are more logically minded, and I think that's totally fine. But I think there's a lot of people that do appreciate, like music. And I think that if you look at vegan music, there's not a lot. It's not, I mean, it's obviously a kind of a weird topic in a lot of ways to write music about. But I don't know. It's also I think we can share a lot of our own struggles that we've seen in the world through art. And so I think that's a big part of what I'm doing. I mean, I have songs on my Spotify that are about going into slaughterhouses and what I've seen inside those places. And I also have ones um, that are far more lighthearted, you know. So there's a huge range of what you can talk about in the art space, and that's, I guess, what I'm trying to do.
Totally. Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I feel like art is easier for people to connect with. Like it just taps on their heart a little bit more. So I love that you're just entering in that way and helping people wake
Thanks,
up to
man.
things. Is the documentary, or it's a docu series, right?
Yeah, the one in Indonesia is a 4-part. We're kind of actually we're kind of moving away from the word doc series, even though in my opinion it is a doc series. Indonesia doesn't have this like same like affection towards like doc series that we do, for example, in the US. But yeah, it's like a 4-part series basically.
That's awesome. And what are you showing in it? I know you said about the horse slaughter, but anything else? Or
That's the one in Mongolia. This one is actually about traveling to different islands across Indonesia, and basically this celebrity host. That's kind of where we're starting in Indonesia. Is it's like ground zero. There's no conversation around veganism whatsoever. It's not talked about in the mainstream ever, and so we have like there's a couple like vegetarian celebrities. There's one vegan celebrity, and he's a phenomenal guy. He's a comedian, and he's very well loved and respected around Indonesia. So we kind of got him to be the host. We were so happy when he accepted because we also didn't really have a backup plan. So it was kind of like it was kind of him or nothing. And so it worked out super well, and he's been fantastic. We basically traveled around to I guess 5 different Indonesian islands, and we've met with different specialists in the space who are the thing about Indonesia again is it's hard to find, like there aren't a lot of vegan doctors, for example. If you're doing a documentary in the US or Europe, like you can find vegan doctors all over the place who are happy to do an interview. Here it hasn't been like that. So we have a lot of like non-vegans in the series who are happy to talk about the benefits of eating plant-based. And so that's always kind of an interesting dynamic. But yeah, it's basically traveling around and learning about Indonesian foods. Like a lot of the core foods of Indonesia are naturally plant-based, and a lot of the influx of animal products is actually coming from colonization, and it's not really like core to who Indonesians are. And they're being sold a lot of products now, especially dairy. Dairy makes no sense in this country. I mean, it makes no sense in any country, but in Indonesia, 97% of people are allergic to dairy. And so you're like, it's just not going to be good for anyone. And yet like big companies are coming over, and they're like, there's all these crazy things. Indonesia flew like that's a very important word when I say this. They flew dairy cows from Australia to Indonesia to like kickstart their dairy program. It's like they put them on airplanes. It's like the most absurd thing. It's just like, what are we doing? And so it's kind of like we're talking about it's pretty lighthearted. It's a lot of food. We're not like doing slaughterhouse footage or anything. But yeah, it's just kind of trying to spread that message of like eating plants, you'll be healthier, kinder to the earth, kinder to the animals, in a fun, lighthearted way. That's the goal.
Yeah, it sounds like you're making it like cool and accessible and just fun, like you said, and showing people what is already around them and helping educate them about, like the colonialism that's happening and just coming back to their roots. And I love that you have a well-known person that is well liked as well, like a famous person as the star. That's awesome.
That helps so much.
I'm sure.
I feel like this is like the prevention before the cure, like
absolutely. Yeah. And that's something really interesting about like being in Indonesia is that, like you say the average person, let's say in the States, you're talking to someone in the US about veganism and they already have an idea of what it means the second you say it. And it's usually negative. In Indonesia, people are stoked. They're like, oh, plant-based, like cool. What's that? Like, oh, I already eat predominantly plant-based. Oh, that's interesting. There's not this like negative connotation to it. And so people, from what I've experienced so far, are very open to the conversations around veganism because it's new. There haven't been negative media campaigns about it. Like there's not industry pushback because nobody's talking about it. So I think you're absolutely right. That's a lot of what it's like. Is like getting here early, kind of, and doing some of this work early is beneficial, I think, because people, they haven't had a chance to decide that veganism sucks yet. So hopefully we can help make that not happen. We'll see.
I've wondered if I went a little too extreme, like going with the vegan word. It's now in my company. It's now on my head.
Sure.
It's in my personal handle on Instagram, but I feel like there's nothing wrong with the word vegan. It's more of, we get this opportunity to reshape people's perceptions. So I think for you to be able to step in, like when I look at activism, I want it to, like, personally, I want my activism to be effective. And I think with what you're doing, it's saving a lot of time in the future, and it's decreasing demand or preventing demand from increasing before these corporations push it on people. To further that, I just want to say thank you. I've been thinking for probably the last year about activism every single day, probably like within the last 2 years, moving really heavily in that direction. And to clarify for other people that might be listening, like, activism doesn't just mean being on the streets. It means, like, in my opinion, raising awareness for animal rights. And you can do that through social media, through t-shirts, tattoos, music, like so many different ways. Documentaries. I think documentaries are huge.
Yeah.
And all of that to say, I do think about this at times. Like, I only know how to be an activist in English. And there's a whole lot of the world that doesn't speak English, but would still benefit. I mean, the animals in those countries would benefit from veganism, but also the people, the fact that you might be able to prevent a lot of diseases in your country too. Like, I mean, it is a win-win. I think sometimes activists focus only on the animals, which at the end of the day, I feel like we should speak for the animals first, but it's cool that the humans get, it's not the opposite. It's not like pushing the carnivore diet, but it hurts
exactly. Yeah.
I'm curious, James, to dive into you a little bit on your background. Sure. Did you grow up in Indonesia? Did you move there?
Nope.
What did this look like? Let's do your backstory. Let's talk about you.
Yeah. I've lived here for 7 years. And I actually didn't intend on staying here when I first got here. I was actually starting an organization with a friend like 7 years ago, basically, and we came here because it was we had like a mutual contact who lived here, and it seemed like a good place to like settle down and kind of start something. And then the plan was to start that organization in Europe, and then that kind of all fell through. So COVID happened after that, and I kind of got like stuck. But this was not the worst place to be over COVID. It was pretty relaxed in a lot of ways. And also, you know, there was lockdowns and stuff like that, but regardless, it was like beautiful weather, and I'm not bragging, but it was a pretty sick spot to be. Before that, I guess like I grew up in a very, I would say, non-vegan family. My mother was a lobbyist for animal agriculture groups. So I am my mother's karmic joke, certainly, I would say. Definitely, actually. So yeah, I grew up, like, I remember going with my mom to like agricultural fairs and stuff like that, and helping her cook up pork to show people like the proper temperature and marinades for it and stuff like that. So my mom and I have had lots of long conversations. I would say she's very supportive of my work. I wouldn't say she understands it, but she loves her son, you know, kind of vibe. I'd say that's kind of where we're at. I got into photography when I was a kid, and I've always kind of had a camera in my hands. And then I got a job after university, and I started shooting basically portraits and stuff like that when I lived in the US. And then I started traveling, and I quit that job to start traveling full time for about a year in Latin America. And when I was in Bolivia, this is kind of the main story, I guess, is in Bolivia, I accidentally walked into a slaughterhouse. And I think at the time I was vegetarian for environmental reasons, but I called myself freegan, where like if I was drunk I used to drink quite a bit. And if I was like drunk at a hostel and someone handed me a burger, I was taking a bite. It never like impacted me, or I never thought about the animal behind that decision. And I had this moment where I saw a cow. There was this black and white cow, and they were just, I can probably be a bit explicit, but they were just cutting the heads off these cows. And I had this moment where these cows were black and white. They looked like dairy cows. And I had a dog who I grew up with. His name was Colby. He was a black and white Springer Spaniel. And I had this moment, and something clicked. And I was like, I literally was like, oh my God. And I took a picture. I made a whole documentary series about this kind of moment for me. It's called Planet Vegan. It's on YouTube, or our website, planetvegan.com. And really everything shifted for me in that moment. After that, I ended up doing, I don't know if you ever heard of ayahuasca. It's like a plant medicine. I was a plant medicine in Peru. And basically ayahuasca sat me down and was like, okay, now you know the truth about animals. And my entire journey with the medicine that night was being inside of a slaughterhouse. And it was like time didn't exist. And it really felt like I was in a slaughterhouse for weeks. And after that, I wanted to see it for myself. And so I was like, I need to figure out what to do. I need to figure out how to like help animals and stuff like that. And so I started sometimes with organizations, sometimes on my own. I've been to slaughterhouses all over the world now. And I wanted to see it for myself. And so I did quite a bit of I did work with an organization called Animal Save Movement. They were the Save Movement back then. I'm sure you've heard of Animal Save Movement. And I worked with them, and I went to slaughterhouses and did vigils all over the world. And so I don't know how many slaughterhouses I've been to, but a huge number. And it was, I was documenting, I was on the team documenting basically, and helping their video team and stuff like that. And yeah, it just, it further opened my eyes to the insanity of the way that we treat animals and the necessity for it to stop, and the desire in my heart, and obviously so many of us, for that practice to no longer be one that we partake in. And yeah, that was kind of the whole journey. And then I because of that thing that happened in Bolivia, where I walked into that slaughterhouse, I kind of had a bit of a brain blast, I guess, like 6 months later. And it basically told me like I should use my skills as a photographer to start doing videos, because I had seen like Cowspiracy blew my mind when I watched it the first time. It was like, we've all seen that. Like, it's like got a cult following, that movie. Like so many people have seen that film, and it changed so many lives. And it didn't make me an animal rights activist overnight, but it got me thinking. And I think that's how a lot of our activism is. We're just trying to get those little tiny, like those little points to fill the cup or whatever they say, until finally someone makes it really clicks for them. But Cowspiracy, man, like it changed my life. That film changed my life. And that was the first thing. That was the first time I'd ever considered that conversation. And so I realized the power of documentary, as you've spoken about already, is so huge. It has a lot of potential to change hearts and minds. You don't get to sit people down for 90 minutes very often and talk to them straight about something, And so I realized I wanted to start doing that. So I made a series called Planet Vegan. I mentioned that already. And then that kind of led into what I'm doing now in film.
Amazing. So much to touch on there.
Yeah, that was long. But you asked me my whole life story. It was going to take a few minutes.
Thank you. No, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, sure.
So there's like 15 things I want to say, but one, thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Two, it's so incredible to see where you came from, like from your mom's direction. Like you could have gone a completely different route in life.
Totally.
Three, sometimes things just happen. Like what seems like an accident was really potentially like one of the most pivotal moments in your life. I mean,
Yeah.
It's crazy to imagine, had you not, like, how long would it have taken for you to wake up and
Or
see
ever.
it? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I like to think those of us that do change, like, how some people learn about veganism and then, my mom has known about it for 20 years and she supports me. And like, I think though, if I was a flower gardener or a manure salesman and like I loved it as much as I love veganism, I think she'd still support me the same amount. Like my mom's awesome. She's a great mom, but the same way, it just doesn't click for her. And so I think it either clicks for people or it doesn't. And I have hope for everyone. I hope that it will click even after 20 years. I'll still hope. But I think those of us that were going to wake up, it happens, and it would have happened regardless, because we have that basic like morality compass that comes to the surface. We get rid of whatever limiting beliefs we have. And I will say this, like I became vegan almost 21 years ago.
Wow.
But I've only been an activist for about 4. And if I look at the calendar, that's about when I started experimenting and microdosing with psilocybin and other psychedelics. And it's crazy to hear you say on the ayahuasca. I've never used ayahuasca, but I've done LSD, MDMA, psilocybin, and DMT. And I did a DMT trip. And if people are familiar or not, those only last like 10 minutes, but it can feel like a couple hours. It like distorts your perception of time.
Absolutely.
And I had the same feeling. I had the feeling of being stuck in this place like stuck in a there was nothing around me, but it felt like I was stuck in a cage, and it felt like there was some sort of force like tormenting me. And I remember
Wow.
thinking, if I could kill myself right now, if I had the ability, I would end my life.
Wow.
And I was like, this is a very weird spot to be on a DMT trip, like wanting to kill myself.
Mhm.
But then I realized I interpreted that as that's exactly how the animals feel. And I've always thought,
Yeah.
I haven't been to a slaughterhouse. I feel like it would really wake me up. But I do think that experience of truly imagining what it's like to be in a space where you wish you were dead.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the reason why I fight for the animals is viewing it from their perspective. So I
Yeah.
just thought it was really cool. I'm wondering if there's other people that have had similar experiences or not, because you know, at least you and I have.
Totally. It's interesting you say that. I haven't I talk to people about plant medicine quite a bit. I'm in a space where there's a lot of people who have experienced psychedelics and stuff. I actually haven't come across a lot of people that have reached a vegan conclusion with psychedelics. I think that now psychedelics have a very profound effect on empathy, for example. So like I think, but that empathy needs to be directed towards something, right? And I really wish that yeah, I wish the mushroom world or whatever would start really getting in on people on that one, you know, like because like empathy is great, but it needs empathy and action and direction. And
Mm.
I wish that people would come out of these things more often. I think it's amazing that you had. I kind of wonder though, did you? I wonder if you had that conclusion, like you know, I don't think you saw yourself as an animal, right? You just could feel being trapped and wanting to die. Is that right?
In the moment, yes.
Yeah,
Reflecting on the trip after, I was like, this is exactly what an animal at a
exactly.
slaughterhouse or factory farm, and more of like a factory
Right.
farm, because like the
Yeah.
slaughterhouse, you probably know the end is near.
Yeah.
But in a factory farm, spending
It's
your life in a
endless.
cage, like the
Yeah.
amount of, I don't think this is talked about enough, and so I'll mention it here since this is our podcast. But imagine being locked in a closet for 6 to 12 months. Like that's what some of these animals go through. Like I
Yeah.
can't imagine the pain of the boredom alone, much less
Totally.
any of the other physical pain.
Yeah.
What I will say though, James, and this is something I've noticed. I used to do a lot of reading on Reddit and other places, like in the mushroom subreddits.
Mm.
And there were a number of people coming in like, guys, what do you eat while you're tripping? Like, there's no way I can eat meat. Like, I'm a bodybuilder.
Mm.
I'm fit, but all I can really eat on this is fruit. And then other people are like, dude, it's been 5 weeks since I ate meat because I did a mushroom trip and it felt weird to eat meat after. And one
Whoa.
guy's
Wow.
like, how can I eat the muscle of these? How can I take their muscle to build mine? And I'm like, okay, this is just on a mushroom subreddit. It has nothing to do with
Yeah. Yeah.
veganism. And
Yeah. Yeah.
with our company, we've had several people apply to work with us, and I'll always ask them, why'd you go vegan? When did you go vegan? The craziest one I can think of is a guy in 1971 said his friend came back from Vietnam and they sat down at his table, did some LSD, and he's like, that moment, I went vegan.
Whoa.
I've been vegan since
Whoa.
1971. I decided in that
Jeez.
moment, I can't take anything from an animal the rest of my life. And then I met this kid at the gym a month ago, and he's asking me about veganism. His brother walks over and he's like, my brother's vegan. I'm like, how long you been vegan? He said, 4 months. I said, why? He's like, well, if I'm going to be honest, I did a mushroom trip and I realized like I tried to eat eggs the next morning. I'm like, this is life. I can't eat life. I have to eat things that don't come from animals. And I'm like,
Wow.
maybe we just need to give everybody psychedelics.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it'll
100%. I'm on board for that, and I'm really glad you've met these people because that's
yeah.
awesome. I unfortunately haven't come across that, so I need to start talking to more people. I think.
I don't think psychedelics give you anything that you don't already have inside. I think I wanted to be an activist for a very long time. I just didn't believe in myself enough. And
Mm.
so I think they gave me the courage to do what I always wanted,
Yeah.
or like even trick myself into having that courage. And so,
Sure.
yeah, I think if there's anybody else out there that's curious, they are very powerful and life-changing substances. They should be respected, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I sincerely don't believe I'd be sitting here right now talking to you, maybe in a few years, had I not done them.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I would say the same.
Anyways, I ran my mouth a lot there. Alex, did you have anything that you wanted to say? No.
No, I just think it's like it's cool that the universe guided you in this direction. I got chills when you were talking about like being on your ayahuasca trip and just feeling like you were in a slaughterhouse for weeks. Like
Yeah.
I can't imagine existing in that space for so long.
It's
But
tough.
Yeah, no, I bet. I can I'm sure it was traumatizing in a way, but I really admire that you've taken that and decided to change the world with it and have that light your fire, and seeing that slaughterhouse in person and also experiencing on your trip too. Yeah, I just appreciate you for not just backing away from it, but like diving full force into it and going to slaughterhouses all around the world and documenting and exposing, and now working on this docu-series that you're working on, or documentary that you're working on, and your music too. Like, that's just freaking badass, dude.
Thanks, guys.
For sure.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Yeah. I mean, Alex said trauma, and I think it's interesting you picked that word, Alex, because I recently read like the true definition of trauma is where like your behavior changes after. Like if you have a traumatic car accident and you never ride in a car again, that would be like evidence of trauma.
Mm.
I wonder if there could be a silver lining or even a bright side to trauma. Like you went through that experience and now you've changed. You avoid not being an activist. You are an activist through that event, and I think that's really like a powerful way to grow through something that might have felt really difficult in that moment. So
Absolutely. Trauma is hugely shaping. I mean, that's, I think I would suggest that all activism comes from trauma. I mean, I think that's probably the root of activism is unfortunately trauma. That's why activists are that's why we struggle so much, is because it's like a group of traumatized individuals. We've all seen something like a deep trauma within this earth that we're on, and we've all in whatever way devoted our lives to fixing it in whatever way we can. Yeah, man, that's you got it. it's
I don't think I've
Makes
ever
sense.
thought of it that way, but yeah, it makes so much
I don't
sense.
think I have either. Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
achieve a vegan world, we wouldn't, like, if the world is truly vegan, we wouldn't need
Mm.
activists. We wouldn't even
Yeah.
need the designation of vegan. It wouldn't even, the word would no longer matter,
Exactly.
outside of making sure that we don't slip back into old ways. But
Yeah.
so to further move this along, how often are you working on activism? Is this your full-time thing, or do you have to work another job to pay to do the activism? How does that
No,
look?
I'm my official title, I guess, is like executive director of Fauna Films, and so it's a salaried position. I get paid to run the organization, to film, to do all that stuff, and then the music and creative, I guess, other creative stuff I work on is just self-funded, and I just do that in my free time. But yeah, the Fauna Films position is really interesting. I have a lot of freedom. It's great. Like, I mean, it's like it's a 501c3. We're a real charity, but it's also, I'm also kind of like the lead director, and so like I do the organization running, day to day and stuff. But when we're not filming, I don't have that much to do. I mean, I still work, by the way, but like when we're filming, I'll go a month without taking a day off, and just like crazy schedule, and then I might have a month where I'm working 10 hours a week, and so that month I'm usually making music, I'm making content, whatever. And so I really like having this like sprint, I'd almost say seasonal work life, where it's like super intense for 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, and then I get to kind of chill a bit. Because obviously, I mean, maybe not obviously, but music at least doesn't usually feel so much like work. It's usually really fun. And so yeah, this is my full-time thing, and I just want to say that I'm absurdly grateful. This all came. It's funny. The story of Fauna Films is I have a friend who's now my co-founder, Silvano, and he and I met outside of a slaughterhouse in Switzerland like 8 years ago, maybe even, yeah, probably about 8 years ago, and we both worked for the Save movement at the time, and we've kind of grown up in our processes together over the years. And maybe it was 2.5 years ago or so, I was feeling like I didn't have a job. I wasn't working in animal rights in any way. I was doing like freelance work for vegan companies, and like obviously that is activism and is important, but it was just not what I thought I could be doing. It wasn't what I wanted really. And so one day he asked me this pivotal question, which is, what do you want to do? And I was like, oh my God, I know exactly what I want to do. I was like, I want to start a charity that basically helps prop up the visual media within the animal rights movement. And he was like, amazing. And I was like, and I have this idea for a project in Indonesia already. Like, I think that this could really work. And I told him this idea, and he's like, why have you never told me this? I bet we could get funding for this. And I was like, really? Like, oh my God, crazy. And we put a proposal together, and we were 50% funded, and it was a significant amount of funding for our first project. And we were 50% funded in like 2 weeks. It was crazy. It just like all came together so fast, and it was like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And July 2024, we got our charity papers back that said we had a real charity, and it was like, I run a charity now. What the hell happened? It was so crazy. And so that's since then we've just been moving. That's kind of the story of Fauna Films, really, and it came out of nothing. So like, I'm so grateful to be able to sustain myself with this work, and also feel pretty much every day that I'm at least driving the wheel forward a little bit in something that matters. And you guys also work in this space. Like, it's very fulfilling to, and can be exhausting, but at times as well. But I wouldn't ask for more separation from the cause. Like, I'm really happy to be working. And there's a lot of people that say you shouldn't make money off activism and stuff like that. And I think also, like, you need money. We live within a capitalist system, and unfortunately, unfortunately that's the case, and you need to sustain yourself. And I think if you're working 40 hours a week for a banking firm and then do activism on the weekends, it's going to destroy your soul, and you're not going to have a whole lot of energy for activism. So if you can sustain yourself off activism, I think that's a blessing. And I feel very grateful to have been able to, for whatever reason, I was put in a position where that was possible, and I'm very grateful for that.
I think I agree 100% there. We actually had Jimmy Cashby. He's another vegan rapper.
Yeah, of course.
And we've learned like some really good insights from every single person we've had on here in relation to activism, like how to approach it. And the one that he shared with me that I felt was really powerful, and actually even took some of it into myself, was like, he said, if you want to be the best activist, you have to make money. You have to take days off. You have to take care of yourself. Because if we make the barrier to entry for activism, you can't make money. You can't have time off. Your life has to be an all in your free time. Like, nobody's going to want to do this. We want to make activism as attractive, as sexy, as fun, as profitable as possible. I've always thought, if we can merge activism and capitalism, like if there's a way to make money and help save animals at the same time, that's what we should all be doing. Like, because then in my own team here with the Vegan Squad, Alex worked at a non-vegan restaurant before he came on full time. We just hired somebody else who was a server a few months back, and she was able to work up to full time with us. Now she's quit that job. So now we got people working full time as vegan coaches, vegan content creators. That's awesome to me. Like, every month when I send out the paychecks, like, I'm not like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. I am like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. But also, like, all this money is going into vegan people's pockets. Totally. And it's funding a vegan movement. So I agree. Like, I think it just comes down to, did you create a vegan product and come into the vegan space just to make money? Ultimately, I guess I don't really care. There's certain companies that make vegan products that aren't vegan. Like, thank you for making vegan products. But I think with the activists, if somebody said, we'll save all the animals or we will give you all the money, I don't think any activist would say, give me the money over the animals. No true activist would. So, I'm going to run for like 60 seconds. I'll let you carry on for me.
I had a question. I got sidetracked with that. I'll cut this out. But
no worries.
Yeah, it's cool that you were able to start this within just a few years, like 2 or 3 years, and you're working on this massive project and funded and have a 501c3. Like, that is so epic, dude. And
it's crazy, man. Again, came out of nowhere.
It sounds like it. Like, you just met this guy in Switzerland 8 years ago, and they were just like, I have this idea, and then like you all made it happen together. It's so dope.
Yeah.
I was curious with the burnout aspect of things. How do you navigate burnout? And whenever you experience it, like, I'm sure going to the slaughterhouses was a version of burnout in itself, or just like
100%.
a lot of emotions. No. Okay.
No. Sorry, I'm saying 100%. Yes.
Sorry,
yes. Oh yeah. 100% have dealt with burnout. I was telling you about that period where I went into that phase of like, I was doing freelance for some companies and stuff, and I wasn't really working that much. And that was kind of riding on the back of, like, I would say 2 or 3 years of really intense activism, where everything I lived and breathed was, that's the thing. It wasn't just activism. It was like constantly being bombarded with like, I wouldn't even say animal rights messaging, but kind of the most like negative animal rights messaging you can come across. Cause there's animal rights messaging of like, hey, let's care about animals' rights. And then there's slaughterhouse footage. I mean, like, I don't know how many times, it's funny, like looking back at like self-care and stuff like that. These conversations were not in any of our repertoire at all. We weren't talking about self-care. We weren't talking about burnout. It wasn't in the conversation. There was no organizational self-care. The organizations we were working at didn't talk about it. There was no conversations of time off. Like, it didn't exist. And I think that's changed significantly now. But I was going to say, like, I don't know how many times I've seen Dominion, for example. Like, we used to do Dominion screenings, and because I didn't want to look away from the suffering of the animals, I would sit in every one of them. I mean, like, we would do on every new city we went to, we would hold a Dominion screening at a university. And so I probably saw Dominion 40 times over the course of a year or something like that, like once a week. You can't do that. You can't. You're going to have severe repercussions from that pattern. And I did. I had like, yeah, I think as I said, it was about 3 years of like really intense activism. And after that, I probably had 2 years of just severe depression and burnout. And it's interesting now looking back at that, like, I think I needed that time away. I really did. And I'm actually kind of grateful for that time, because I think I couldn't have kept moving in that course. I needed like something to crash or break had to happen. And it did. And so my recommendation would be is don't get to that stage. Don't get to the stage where you have to take years off. Like we talk about this all the time in activism, is like, we need people still doing activism in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Like, it's because unfortunately animal exploitation will still be around when we're in our 60s. We're not seeing a vegan world anytime soon, unfortunately. And I mean, like, I realize that's not the most positive thing to say, but I think it's going to take some time. We're all probably on board with that. Sure. And yeah, like, so I would just say, like, take care of yourself, rest. Don't feel guilty for resting or vacationing or whatever it is. Like, you've really, really got to take care of yourself when you're being bombarded with messaging of death all the time. And so, and that's why I think, like, there's so many forms of activism. Like the people that make vegan cupcakes on YouTube, I think that's awesome. I think that's sick. Like, what a beautiful form of activism that you can make longitudinal. It can last forever. You can make cupcakes online forever, and you can show people that vegan baking can be awesome. I think that's awesome. I really do. It's not the form of activism that really found me. I'm a terrible cook, but also, like, I think that people doing that have found a way to inspire people around plant-based food that they can do for a long time. And they probably, there's burnout from all kinds of stuff. There's social media burnout. There's all kinds of stuff. But I think that at least not being faced with the messaging of animal suffering daily is highly beneficial.
Totally. Yeah. I feel like when you're super driven, sometimes it can be, at least the thought that comes to my mind is like, oh, if I rest, I'm not being productive, or I'm not like, I don't know, in this case, like, oh, I'm resting and I'm not doing something for the animals. But yeah, I feel like there needs to be a shift of like, my rest is so important so that I can show it better for the animals, or I can show it better for my work, whatever I'm doing. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what exactly that message is beside that, or like how to nail that down for myself and others, honestly. But yeah, I think it's really important to rest. So thank you for sharing your experience and just the importance of resting, because yeah, you need it.
Totally.
We've within the Vegan Squad recently this month, we've started implementing mandatory days off, because we've been working as basically a startup to get this off the ground. And Alex and I pull more hours per week than anyone else. I would say I probably average between 70 and 80 hours a week. Yeah. And now we're implementing a few mandatory days off. And at the time, I agree with Alex. It's like, oh man, I could be doing more. But sometimes taking that step back allows you to come and do more. And I usually notice the days or the moments that I take time off is when I have these really big epiphanies, as far as like something that can really move the business forward versus just kind of chugging along where it's currently at. So yeah, I think that's huge. You hit on a point, both Jamie Logan and Nina Bergman, we had them on here, and they both separately said that they had to take time and space for themselves to recover from seeing some of the things that they had been around, and that I think for us as activists, like my personal take is looking at, like, I call what I do work. Like, I work on this company, but at the end of the day, like, there's work that kind of drains my cup. Like, I don't necessarily love all the technical aspects of building websites, or um even some of the coaching aspects that I do right now, or writing contracts. Like, those don't make me like super happy and giddy inside.
Sure.
But like this podcast, technically this is work, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk away at the end of the hour feeling with my cup is filled.
Totally.
So trying to put more of that on my plate as possible. And I think what's really inspiring from your message is showing, this position and space that you're in. It wasn't exactly created for you. It wasn't like you just saw a job offer and it just happened to fall in your lap, or you went to college and then this was the logical next step. I think the power in this episode is showing other people how they could follow in your footsteps, James. Like, basically, once you find that alignment, once you find that thing that matters to you, you can build it. And kind of same for me with the Vegan Squad. Like, nobody told me to do this. It was kind of like there's this calling in my heart, and also this
Mm,
realization in my brain that I wasn't going to be fulfilled doing anything else. So I might as well do
yeah.
what fulfills me. So I want to take this with you now with that statement and say, I think the easiest way to teach others is basically talk to your younger self,
Mm,
where you were at before you had what you have now. So if we were talking to like younger James that just came out of the slaughterhouse for the first
mm.
time, or had just done that ayahuasca trip, like, what would you say in regards to your younger self, like how to become the activist that you want to be? Like, what lessons have you learned at this point in your life now, and what would you give back to your younger self to help him get there faster?
Mm. It was funny. I kind of anticipated what you were saying, and so I had a bit of an answer. And I wanted to say something like "get there faster," like work harder. It's like I am actually not sure I would say that. I would say like trust or something like that. I think I would say like I don't know. I being relatively analytical, I think that I like doubt things a lot, and I second guess myself and things like that. And I think those moments when I really trust in the path, I find myself to be quite a spiritual person. Like, and I think those moments when I really like am intuitive and trust my vision of the world and those around me and stuff. I think that those are the moments when I make the right decisions. And I think it would be that. It would be like slow down. Actually, I think I tell myself to slow down, not in the way where I like slow down the progress of the work I'm making, but slow down in life, be more present, focus more. Um, and yeah, the word trust keeps coming up. Just really trust like what you're working on is correct and good. And like, I think that would be the message. Honestly, I feel I'm at a stage in my life. I've made plenty of mistakes and things like that, but I'm pretty happy with like what the path I'm on and the things I've done. And and I think we also live in a culture that constantly wants us to compare ourselves. And I see people. I kind of just got back on social media, and like, I see someone's post taking off, and my first thought from the ego is like, oh, why don't your posts take off? It's like, whatever. And we compare ourselves constantly. And I think it's in the systems that are created, they benefit from us making those comparisons. And I think I'd say, like, be watchful for that. Be kind to yourself, I think would be a huge thing. I think I'd probably say, hey, by the way, you're going to spend 3 years going inside of slaughterhouses. Maybe make that like 6 months and then take 6 months off or something. I probably would have told myself to take more breaks and be okay with rest. I think that, again, talking about systems, like even modern capitalism and the way that it's fueled each and every one of us this like hustle culture that we need to burn out. Like we take ourselves to the edge and we work. I think that is something that takes undoing. I don't think human beings are really meant to do that. And I think that we're meant to ignore some of our feelings of burnout and feelings of distress and anxiety so that we keep pushing until we break. So I think I would tell myself to be softer, to trust more, to be kinder. um yeah. By the way, that's great messaging for myself now as well, just for the record. Like we can all probably use that messaging. Like it's not
100%.
like it's not that just my younger self needs that. I still need that. Even as I was saying it, I was like, I'm full of shit. Like I don't always implement this, but I do
It's
feel
okay.
that I do feel like those are things that I have definitely learned over the years, and they would have been useful 10 years ago for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
and now
I have no doubt there's other people in the audience, myself included, they're like, is he talking to me? Like, maybe I should take this advice.
Yeah.
Alex?
I don't know, I was just going to say, yeah, like I literally just did a tarot card reading 2 weeks ago, and pretty much most of your message was in my tarot, like to slow down and be patient, and just trust in the power of myself and my intuition, like step into my power essentially. Yeah, that's really cool.
Cool, nice.
The seeds are planted, and yeah, I agree. I feel like it's just about continually practicing them each day and making it a non-negotiable to rewire those brain patterns, I guess, or patterns of thinking. So
absolutely.
I think it's almost like being fit, or being vegan. Like every single day, that's a conscious decision and a choice to make. And so how you speak to yourself and remembering these lessons, like that's a daily thing. Like it's not something you'll ever master. It'll just be something you keep working at every single day, getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. I'm curious. A complete sort of sidebar here, but I feel like in the vegan movement, we have some interesting like trends that I've noticed. One, I do feel like psychedelics is one way in. Documentaries are one way in. Peer pressure, friends is one way in. That's how I got in. I also feel like I've noticed that there is a large portion of either neurodivergent, autistic, even gender nonconforming people that move to this movement. I think all of those relate to high levels of empathy and less desire to fit in socially. I feel like there is a lot of spirituality. And then I also feel like there are a lot of atheists that are vegan as well.
For sure.
So I've been doing a lot of soul searching myself. I'm a little bit curious to hear about your personal views on spirituality, how you practice, like what benefits do you get? How do you view your own spirituality?
Totally. Yeah, I guess it's like a lot of my spirituality was built based on plant medicine, really ayahuasca. And I was never a spiritual person. I would have called myself atheist before, certainly. And now, like, it's also weird. I think there's like trying to explain spirituality in the way that you feel it is kind of strange to people. In the same way that I'm sure saying that you practice a major religion, like for example, if someone talks to me about Catholicism, I already have like a preconceived idea of what they believe that is, and I implant that, or I put that on them, when I actually might not know that much about their religion and the feeling that they have, So I guess like when I talk about spirituality, I'm trying to figure out how deep do I go? Do I want to sound like a crazy person? Like, for example, I believe that like God is the earth, if that makes sense. And there is a word to describe this. I don't remember what it is, but there is like a religion where you pantheology, something like that. Sorry, I'm going to get it wrong. But there is something where you kind of believe that. And I do believe that there is like a deep spirit of the earth, like an energy, I guess I would say. And I think that leads us towards empathy. I think that the feeling of that energy suffering is huge in our movement. It's in the movement. Like, for example, all of us creatures, I believe that we feel, like we can feel each other. There's a again, how crazy do I want to get? But there's like some kind of energetic connectivity between all beings. I believe that. A oneness, a universalness. I truly believe that. And I think that right now there is a lack of balance within the human race that is destroying the planet, destroying our host, our mother, our source of life, and that we can feel it. And I believe that feeling inside is causing the anxiety that so many of us feel. I believe it causes wars. I believe it causes distress within humanity. I think that if you were to go back 20, 30,000 years when we were indigenous and roaming the earth in nomadic lifestyles, I don't believe that we had aggression in the same way. And some of this has been like documented. I was reading a really good book recently called Humankind, and it kind of like paints this modern picture that we have of humans, of that we're like aggressive, and that when the pin drops we're gonna tear each other apart, and that we have these primal instincts. And it looks back at like nomadicism, and it actually like it realizes that people were actually not violent. Like the weapons they used were for like very infrequent hunting, and they were almost never turned on each other. And there were like large nomadic groups that would pass each other and just like say hello basically and move on. And like there were occasional battles and stuff like that, but it was really not this constant warmongering and violence that we believe humans are about now. And I think our disconnection from the earth is the cause of all of that. And so like I think that's where I think veganism is that. I really do. I think veganism is like, sometimes, I guess I have my own view on this and many would disagree, but I think it's sometimes improperly structured in some ways towards just being about animals. I really believe that veganism inherently is about reconnecting people to the earth, because I think that if you are connected to the earth, you could never harm an animal. I don't think you could harm another human being. Like it's a movement to me of such deep peace that it doesn't necessarily for me have to be described in terms of animals only. It's like obviously humans are animals, and so that kind of wraps it into the picture. There's no war if there's a vegan world. I made a reel about this recently, and I believe it, that that war would make no sense in a vegan world. If you care deeply about chickens and their eggs, you're not going to drop a bomb on someone. Never. It would make no sense. And so I think that's kind of my view of spirituality in a lot of ways, is like I believe that like our disconnection from the earth, I believe the earth has this profound energy, and that we are abusing her in so many ways and extracting from her in ways that are unnecessary, and that's causing so much of the distress we see in this world.
Wow, that's so powerful, dude. Like sincerely, I'm really glad to hear your perspective. And I googled it. Pantheism.
Pantheism.
God and nature are one, and it makes me beg the question of like, do we have limited abilities to see the world as it truly is? Like, what if our eyes, instead of picking up light, they could pick up on that energy that you feel that we all
think about this all the time. Absolutely.
And I wonder if psychedelics allow us a quick glimpse at what that light is, because what that energy is between us, because then why else would at least you and I have had that same like kind of slaughterhouse imagination from the animal's perspective without being like, why else would that be part of this? And also like, I think you're so right that there is such a difference between the manufactured human violence that we have and the natural order of the world with predators and prey. It's just like completely different. And I often, I'm going to put this out here. I don't think I've said it on the podcast before. I've been saying it to some friends, but like, you know, like we don't think of lions as evil. Like people say, should vegans kill lions? And like, no, like the lions actually have a job, but their job is to protect the herd quality of the gazelle, because without the lions, the gazelle would eat all the grass. They'd eat all their food. Their sick would overpopulate. And so like the lions serve a very vital role for keeping the environment, keeping the earth, keeping God, if you will, safe in this. And the problem I see is that the humans are the gazelles and we have no lions. Like, I'm not saying we should go around killing people, but the balance is unchecked. We are like the gazelles, just eating and eating and eating, and we eat everything. Like I often joke too, if an alien landed on the earth, who's going to be the first person to try and eat the alien? Like, it's a little bit insane. So I think that you have a very interesting view, and I also want to go back to just, this is me personally, your trust in yourself. I also think another way you could say that is belief or self-confidence.
Totally.
And the biggest problem I think I have with atheism, even though I think that's how I would classify myself, very logical. Like, even though I've had these, like, I guess you could say spiritual experiences, like somehow, maybe like, I don't know, like a blend between atheist and agnostic or spiritual. Maybe I'm spiritual. I'm not sure. But I think the biggest problem, like if we took a child from birth and raised them Christian or raised them spiritually, or raised them Buddhist, and asked them to work as hard as they could towards a cause, I think they might get further than the atheist, because almost every religion has some sort of belief or faith,
Mm.
and it's faith in something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And it basically forces you to rise up to the occasion. So I started listening to a lot of like Christian music and spiritual music and motivational speeches, and that's been a secret weapon for me in the last year. Like I'm trying to put that out there more for other people. Like, even if you're like, I'm speaking to the atheists that are listening right now that think all of this is crazy. Then if you think this is crazy, you need to find a way to really believe in yourself more than anything else.
Yeah.
No matter what happens. Like, your partner could die the next day and you still need to believe in this the exact same that you did the day before. You could lose all your money, you could lose your house, like, but you still have to have that belief that, like, a Christian person would say, this is all intended by God, this is all okay, I'm going to wake up today and do the best that I can possibly do no matter what. And I don't feel like atheists are given that handbook. And so
it's like an ingrained support system basically that you walk through life with.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe I have that now. Like, it all depends on how crazy you want to get, but like my first experience with plant medicine, with ayahuasca in Peru, was I was told by Mother Ayahuasca that I'm her foot soldier. She basically said, she was like, you're going to become an animal rights activist, get to work. And it was just like, holy shit, let's see how this goes. And then now whenever I go back and check up, I'm always like, I usually go back because I'm in like deep distress over something. Like my father died last year, and I was like really suffering through some stuff, and I like went back, and it was like I needed holding and I needed support, and she was like basically like, come in, my foot soldier, I've got you, what do you need, like how can I help you? And it's like, again, I wasn't a spiritual person, so it's so bizarre to have this in life now, but I truly believe that in some ways my mission is supported in a way that I feel lifted up in that way. And there's some more like modern day philosophers who have talked about this, like the benefits of really religion and spirituality is that, compared to not having it, is if you, let's say you're religious your whole life, you kind of feel like you have a support system. You feel like God is behind you and supporting you and holding you and whatever. And if you're right and your religion was correct, which statistically speaking is nearly impossible, but let's pretend it is. It's very unlikely that your one of many thousands of religions is correct, but let's pretend. So let's say that your religion is correct, and you were right. Your God's going to be like, great job. And if you're wrong, there's nothing happens. Your lights go out and it's black, and that's it. Nothing changed. However, the atheist, they go through life and they don't have that support system. If they're wrong, God is going to be super pissed. He's like, why didn't you believe in me? Like, well, you didn't search for me, nothing. And if they're right, same thing. Lights go off, blank. So I think there is like, I'm also not advocating for anyone to pick up a religion just for the hell of it or for like the good vibes. But it is interesting. I do think that's an interesting argument but it's also like, I think the atheist in that case would say, so you're just going to lie to yourself for your whole life for a false belief. That's fine too. I'm quite interested. I really like these debates between atheists and folks that follow religion. I think they're very interesting because people who follow religion are religious. They believe this, and atheists are the opposite. And it's very hard to convince either, from what I could tell. So, yeah.
I feel like atheists get so stuck up on being right, and I think that's me. Like, I always want to be right. Not always be right, like, oh, I'm the right one, like you have to agree with me because I'm right, but like I want the correct information. Like, sure, I want to know, like, is this the truth? Is this like actually happening? Like the same thing with veganism. Like, are these animals actually being killed in this way? Like, I want to know, I want to be right in my beliefs. And so it's hard to pick one of these thousands of religions. I think you're so right though on the different tracks that your life could take. And I think if someone's choosing to be an atheist, then they have to find that belief somewhere else, that faith, totally, that trust. What do you trust? And I'm now like borrowing things from different religions that, like, I have a friend that's Christian and he's like, God loves you. And I'm like, even if I don't believe it directly the way he does, I can still like try to trick myself into believing that. And then I'm going to show up better because somebody else loves me. Like, hey,
I think that's fair. Like, and ideally you're happy. You're very welcome to pretend that the universe was created and that you were created. And if that was the case, which is potentially true, that's the thing. It's like, that is definitely on the table. That might be true. And if that was the case, you would expect that the creator of that would at least look at you with love, wouldn't they? I mean, like, you would hope so.
I guess that's a lot of atheists are like, well, if I'm wrong and God hates me for not believing, then God's kind of a jerk, and I don't want to be a part of one where the leader's a jerk. But I think spiritualism might be the best bridge, because I think all religions have some sort of spirituality, and I think just like anything else, you can pick which parts of it speak to you. You don't have to believe everything from Buddhism or everything from Christianity. Like,
totally.
I made this analogy, and now I'm kind of getting long-winded with this whole talk, but it's like, imagine like you grew up your whole life fighting, and like you got beat up a lot, but you learned a lot through fighting. And then you travel the world and you learn kung fu and you learn tai chi, you learn karate, you learn Krav Maga. And then you're like, well, the best thing is to take which ones work for me and create my own blend. And like, I feel like that's what the best fighter in the world would do. And so maybe like from a spiritual or religious perspective, what if we viewed it that way? Like, there's lessons to be learned from all of these different backgrounds. And I'm sure some of my own personal hangups are just seeing, like you said, like humans used to probably 20, 30,000 years ago, not really have organized religion, and they were kind. And I see people, it's like guns, like religion and guns are the same. In the right hands, they're perfectly fine. In the wrong hands, they're very powerful tools that can do a lot of destruction. So that might piss some people off the way I said it, but I mean, that's how I view it. I mean, there's a lot of power behind religion, and so I think it needs to be wielded with care. So all right.
I think so too.
Well, we took some turns. We're about the cutoff time. Is there anything else you want to share, James? How can people find you, find your documentary?
So as an organization, our website is faunafilms.org. Fauna as in like the animal, faunafilms.org. My personal Instagram is James A. Hoot. You know what I would really appreciate more than anything, though, is I have like 100 monthly Spotify listeners, and I would like to increase that, because this year I'm trying to drop a track every 3 weeks. I've got 12 already in the lineup, and I'm just kind of leaking them out as they come. So I'm getting quite a bit of music out, and I would love to increase my Spotify following, because I'm getting music out there. So you can go find James Hoot on Spotify. You'll know it's me, because I'm the only vegan rapper, James Hoot, definitely. It doesn't get more niche than that at all. And yeah, give me a follow on Spotify. You can check out some of my songs on there. I just dropped one called Gross, which is super fun and really funny. If you listen to Gross, don't leave before the ending. I know this is like clickbait shit titling, but the ending of that song is super funny. You guys can listen to it today, and let me know what you think. But yeah, I've got some songs coming out that are pretty fun. My next release, I think, is going to be one called Soy Boy, which is really nice. It's about a guy getting in a fight with someone in a gym. So anyway, good things are coming. Lots of music coming out.
Alex, we can make a music video to it.
No, 100%. I have a vegan playlist. I just followed you. I'm gonna add your song. I'm excited to listen and add your songs too. But yeah, that's gonna be the new gym anthem, the new pump.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool. And I just want to say that I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, all the best with the podcast, and looking forward to whatever comes next.
Yeah, for sure. We'll link all your.
I'm excited to see your documentary come out. Yeah, no, I'm excited to keep in touch.
Are your documentaries in English?
So we have we've got one coming out. We've got one coming out called Liberty, and there's some information on that one on our website. That is actually following a painter called Gretchen Ryan. She's based out of the US, out of California. And she was in a horrible accident when she was 16. She was paralyzed from the waist down. And so she's been bound to a wheelchair for since she was 16. She's an adult now. And she's always she had a lot of connections to animals when she was in the hospital, when she was so much younger. She'd always been like an animal person, always loved like cats and dogs and stuff. And then she started reading these books about what was happening to farmed animals. And she basically connected it to when she was in these rehab centers, trying to get her body to the point where it could move again. And she said that there was just so much suffering in being in her cage, you know, in being trapped and not being able to move or leave a building. And so that helped her really connect with animals. And so her story is very powerful. And basically what she's done is she's a painter, and she's painted this massive 13-foot wide mural. It's insane. And I've obviously, from filming this documentary, I've seen it so many times. And it's like, we did a live reveal of the painting for the film in to about 100 people in Los Angeles. And when we were there, like, multiple people just had like emotional breakdowns. They cried, they saw it. It's a really crazy piece of art. It's got like more than 150 animals popping out towards freedom. There's like burning factory farms in the background. The central figure, which is kind of a self-portrait of her, is like stomping on these like chains and all these, you know, cages cut from animal cages and stuff. It's brilliant. That will be in English. That will be coming out. We've got a couple festivals coming up in this fall, and then we're hoping that we'll probably release that online somewhere. We're not sure, but we do films in English as well. And so when those come out, I'll be sure to release like information and all that stuff.
Yeah, please. That'd be epic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can't wait to see it.
Cool. Thanks, brother.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you for sharing. I think you've given a lot of like the groundwork for somebody listening to this that's not yet like identifying as an activist or not sure how they can be an activist. I think you've laid just another path that someone can follow. And I think that this is how we change the world. We keep speaking and showing it's possible, and we've done exceptional things to people on this podcast right now. We're no different than anyone else. Anyone listening to this, you can step up and change the world too. It's within all of our powers. And I think if you find a little bit of that belief, it'll carry you a long way. So thank you so much for being on, James.
Beautifully said. Nice, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another phenomenal episode of the Vegan Squad Pod. I hope that you're feeling inspired to pursue activism in your own way. That was our goal when we set out to launch this podcast. We want to help inspire other vegans to find their voices. But that's not all we do. We also have the Vegan Squad coaching team, where we help people find their way to veganism, and we help vegans get even more fit. This, for me, is another form of activism. The more that we can elevate the lives of the vegans that work with us, the more the rest of the world will see us living our best lives and be a little bit curious. Additionally, every single one of the coaches on the Vegan Squad coaching team is 100% vegan. So you know that by supporting us, you are literally supporting other vegans. Exclusive for listeners of this podcast. If you'd like to work with us and hop on a free call, click the link below. One of our expert coaches will reach out and help you elevate on your fitness journey. If anything that you learned today on this episode was useful to you, please share it with a friend, and we'll see you next week.